Hello, everyone. My name is Angel Reyes, and I am currently holding a Master's of Public Health degree while studying for my Doctor of Public Health at Claremont Graduate University. With that, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to speak about innovation within the healthcare market. The goal of today's presentation is to really speak about how innovators can improve the health of their community. For my introduction, I would like to start with my childhood. Growing up as a first-generation Mexican, I had a lot of murky waters to navigate, such as poverty, lack of health care, and safe neighborhoods to play in, to name the least. I remember growing up with these sort of left and right parameters and just constantly feeling exposed to what is now called adverse childhood experiences. And some of these experiences were domestic violence, early alcohol use, neglect, and gang violence, to name the least. I remember at about age 6, 7, I had my first taste of alcohol. I remember at about age 9, 10, I had my first experience being on the opposite end of guns, plural, not singular. I remember at about age 16, I had gotten my first tattoo. Which, by the way, is not a very wise decision to give a tattoo to a 16-year-old, but is what it is. Now, unfortunately, due to the gang life, I never really grew up with my mom. After graduating high school in 2011 with a 2.3 GPA, I went straight to community college and started to work the next 2 years in order to enter the healthcare field. Now, this is me after graduating basic training, because my entry into the healthcare field was through the military as a medic. Through this experience, I had the opportunity to serve with prestigious military units and more specifically combat units. It was here that my base foundation of healthcare was built because of the opportunities presented to me, such as working as an autonomous healthcare provider, understanding rural healthcare, working as a physical therapist, and in my opinion, one of the more notable ones is sort of learning how to engineer healthcare systems. After July 2022, I had served more than 9 years on both active and the reserves. Now, this is my story of innovation within the healthcare market, but more specifically, the Veterans Health Administration. Because my goal is to improve the health of my community, I have focused my attempts on specifically targeting the military community. Throughout this PowerPoint, I will go into detail about how this is accomplished and how you can apply the same thought process for your own community. Today's agenda has 4 main points that we'll go over together. The first point is innovation. The second point is strategy. The third point is transdisciplinary thinking. And lastly, I will go over my experience with innovation, strategy, and transdisciplinary thinking. On our first point, let's dive into innovation. Now, there are a lot of examples of innovation. However, I would like to bring up one specific example. This example is evidenced by the coronavirus with the vaccines. The thought process was simply identify the problem, conceptualize a solution, and create the solution. Now, not to dive into the complexity of conceptualizing a solution, today I am just here to highlight a very simple process, which is identify, conceptualize, create. So, this is my favorite description of innovation. This is because it recognizes that you have to breathe life into your ideas. Secondly, it acknowledges the fact that they have to be different. In order to set yourself apart from the pack, there has to be a clear differentiation. Differentiation can take a lot of forms, however, it is up to you to decide what that looks like. Taking the business and dissecting its innovation, we can see the first area being services. The services focus primarily on business development. The differentiation is that the payment model oftentimes comes at the cost to the payer, versus my model, which is reimbursable back to the payer. The innovation in services is that payers will be reimbursed because I have instructions on how to go about this to the payer. This model is unique to the military community, and only those that know the policies would be able to go about conducting business in this manner. The second area to dissect is products. My products primarily focus on the social determinants of health, which are the variables or factors that would best predict the success in your life. For example, wealth. Wealth is strongly tied to an individual's health, and the snowball effect of poverty is that there is a lack of generational wealth. Now, the absence of generational wealth creates a lack of life opportunity. The lack of life opportunity creates a lot of burnout because they can't see that social mobility, if you will, to enter into a better lifestyle. Now, the innovation of my products is that I deliver coursework and informational materials about how you can create individual life opportunity, how you can create generational wealth and slowly build your individual wealth into a very sustainable practice that goes past just your life in order to influence the life of your children and hopefully their children. Now, this is very different because a lot of other competitors would charge for this and try to capture that value. However, with differentiation, the first one is that my products are all free except for books, which are significantly subsidized. The last differentiation is that my products include automation, and artificial intelligence. For example, I have an AI-powered counselor that helps military community members navigate their federal benefits. Lastly, the automation helps empower them to create professional forms to help extract the most meaningful parts in their application for these benefits. The last area to dissect is culture. Because my services are reimbursable and my products provide me revenue from book sales, I can take those profits and invest it into my culture. A culture in this scenario is ethical decision on spending capital, i.e., how should these capital funds be used to maximize my services and products? By spending my net income, my net revenue, on the military community, we can see a return through increased business opportunity because of the services. For example, let's say my net income at the end of the month is $100. It would cost $25 on average to get in an advertisement from a social media influencer. I decide to choose 4 different influencers to maximize the impact of advertisement because of the heterogeneity of their audiences. Now that my $100 spent brought me 5 new customers, I have increased my sales and invested profits back into the community I serve. In this case, revenue from services were never taken from the payer. The only expense that may be reimbursed is book sales for my product line. And the cycle will continue as the revenue generated goes directly to improving how I spend capital within the community I serve. Now, we are about 25% complete, and I hope that everything from innovation will tie into our section on strategy and hopefully answer any questions that are popping up in your mind. Strategy. Strategy, in my opinion, can be seen as either in active or passive motion. It could also be seen as a dynamic flow of information that you have to react to. To compare strategy to a main that I enjoy working with, I would make the comparison between agile and traditional project management. In agile, you are reacting to the flow of information coming your way, while the traditional approach is performing a type of reverse planning methodology. The strategy you decide to take up in your innovation can be a direct point, A to B, or it can be an adventure where things are not so linear. For example, a lot of technology may be considered to use as agile strategy methods because of the iterative process of improving functions. In my opinion, I really enjoy looking at strategy as a means to facilitate optimal and feasible movements. For example, the agility aspect here is highlighted by the feasibility of your business decisions, while the traditional aspect shines through the optimal use of your time and energy or capital. In this manner, you still get to reverse engineer an endpoint, but you get the freedom to iteratively move towards that endpoint with broad milestones. In the business, I have reversed engineered a business model that delivers value without me being actively present. For example, in my artificially intelligent counselor created with IBM software, I was able to take a service and make it work like a tangible product. Being that I was no longer needed in the conversation, I could focus my attention elsewhere as value was readily available 24/7 and 365 days out of the year. Now, because the main goal was to deliver value without my active presence, it allowed me the flexibility to work iteratively to discover the best process for that. Now, the flow of information, as we proverbially spoke about earlier, can also come from your competitors. For example, you can have the best idea, however, a bigger company with more resources will outshine you most of the time. But that does not have to be your story. Your strategy could include things that bigger companies cannot control, such as talent, i.e., you need to invest in yourself to overcome those differences. You can invest in your business practices, meaning you need to regulate how business is operated. And one last example is your social network, because sometimes it comes down to who do you know and how do you plan to meet more influential people. These are just 3 ideas out of many for the underdog looking to win the fight. In my business, it's the practice of using artificial intelligence to remove the divide of bigger companies having greater access to human capital. Now, with the last sector we'll talk about today for strategy is policy. Policy just like competition is a flow of information coming to your doorstep. How you react to policy is how you decide your business model will be reshaped to move through this flow of information. If your current strategy does not involve policy, I would recommend that you make time to stay in touch, because this can either hurt or significantly help you. For example, in California, there was a recent policy move to support first-time business owners in certain counties. This was considered an incentive to improve California business through seed capital of $10,000. The opportunity cost of not being presently aware of the policy was 10 grand. Secondly, as discussed about our social network, the cost of not knowing someone who is informed about policy could have costed you the same 10 grand. For my business, the opportunity cost to not be aware of policy around artificial intelligence could potentially dismantle the whole entire product line, aside from books and coursework. Secondly, policy change around the reimbursement for business services would crush an entire division of revenue. But on a happier note, policy change could just as equally improve my division's revenue by increasing the reimbursement policy for my services. We have gone through quite a bit. Currently, we're more than halfway home. So, hopefully everything is looking pretty good over there in Florida. So, transdisciplinary thinking is not always taught to every individual entering graduate studies. This is because transdisciplinary thinking requires collaboration across a lot of different fields, not to mention the necessity of being taught how to use cross-domain theories. I want you to remember that the goal of this presentation is to perform innovation while improving the health of your community. Now, if I were to speak about putting innovation, strategy, and transdisciplinary thinking together into a metaphor, I would say that innovation is the car you drive, as strategy is your GPS map. Transdisciplinary thinking would be your car's fuel source, because it helps explain how everything works together. In non-metaphorical terms, I would describe this process as synergistically using known theories. I would personally describe theories as the explanation of how phenomenon occurs, such as explaining behaviors in a target population. Because once we identify what those behaviors are, we can reverse engineer the theories used to describe what took an individual from, let's say, a thought behavior to acting on that thought or impulse. It is in the stage of behavior, thought impulse, that we can use theory to influence decisions. And we're going to see what I mean by that and how a lot of other businesses are doing that. So let's go through an example of what I mean. The goal will be to improve health-seeking behaviors within a population. The impact of getting people to regularly use their health insurance and preventative checkups would mean greater likelihood of health. If individuals experience greater likelihood of health, then they will likely have less barriers to attending college or a technical school. So we'll start with our economic theories. Nudging. Nudging is like subtly hinting towards an idea. A lot of companies do this through text services to remind you of their great deals. For example, I received a discount code to shop at a store through my phone, which prompted the idea for shopping. Framing. Framing is like making the situation seem more dire or severe than what it is. It can also be a tactic that some would say is manipulative of the situation. A lot of businesses, from my perspective, do this in their subscription plans to frame the savings next to other plans in order to upsell. For businesses using framing as a technique to increase sales, they are framing the conversation around the savings you would enjoy from paying all 12 months in advance versus a monthly subscription rate. The second domain is a social science known as positive psychology. The framework of PERMA stands for positive emotion, engagement, relationships, meaning, and accomplishment. Typically, PERMA is used to create communities or facilitate their invitation into existence. A lot of businesses use PERMA to create online communities. These communities then organically grow like a flower garden because the business model exhibits a type of positive citizenship as community members take social control of the organization's direction. We can see this in forum websites like Reddit and Twitter. Our last domain is social network, or more broadly, data science. With social network analysis, we are able to look at individuals. Individuals are important because they deal with your strategy around delivering value to your target population, or even how individuals form a network with you to disseminate information. Remember, policy awareness is a good variable to be aware of. However, you may not have the time to keep up awareness. The compromise is your social network and how information spreads through it. In another use case, let's look at how you can reach your target audience. You need to know the factors surrounding the attributes, such as proxy populations near your target population. That's a mouthful. Basically, this helps you understand all the descriptors of your target population or your target audience, to also include the people near them. Like, say for example, you're going to the university for your first time, and there's a business targeting freshmen trying to go to college. Now, they can directly target that freshman, or they can also target their parents, and their parents serve as the proxy population because they're tied directly to the target audience, as an example. The last use of social network analysis is your individual's location. You could potentially make a 2-layer analysis with 2 individuals and a location in order to cluster similar individuals by the time they spend their days. Now that we have gone through all the theories, let's explain how one of the 3 works together. So, my business uses nudging to help facilitate a community through PERMA. With the recent addition of my social network platform, I can help nudge users to become more socially connected. Secondly, framing allows me to create additional value by transparently comparing services from other competitors. In this case, I would use framing as an opportunity to persuade individuals to use their health insurance, because it would benefit their personal value system of having a greater quality life. Nudging supports social network analysis because it helps to gain data from surveys. These surveys help best describe the individuals in my social network. For example, I want to better refine my business practices in spending money within the military community. The mechanism on doing this is obtaining data on where my target population receives the information or spends the majority of their time. Framing supports my business goals because it helps deliver the message that operating with my business provides you greater service, greater value than the competition. More specifically, you have greater access to resources that support your social determinants of health. Remember, social determinants of health basically encapsulate the factors surrounding the likelihood of good health in your lifetime. and we have officially made it to the home run stretch. Almost there. So on our last stop for today's journey together, I would take a seat back and go through the innovation and strategy landscape. So for my project manager friends, you can think of this as a similar metaphor to the iron triangle. For my new non-project manager friends, you will come to visualize these 3 different areas for growth. The first being services. The second area, products, such as, in this case, books at a subsidized rate, free coursework, free access to automation and AI tools. The last area, business culture, how to ethically spend our net revenue. My business tries to take their net revenue and reinvest it into the community they serve because it helps stimulate their business growth and provides an avenue to reach our proxy and target population. From my personal experience, to improve all 3 aspects, I would recommend adopting a recycling mindset. A recycling mindset means that you're able to take the content you deliver and purposely repackage it. For example, my business created a book outline. After the outline, the chapters were divided by section for their particular topic. The topics were then written into a blog posting. The blog posting served as a rough draft, and after finishing the blogs, we had completed our book's first draft. That first draft serves as the guide for our final version, and also the complementary coursework. Lastly, when developing the AI tool, the book serves as the parameter for the function. With finished products, revenue occurs, so we could spend money on advertisements supporting military businesses. As word spreads, the main revenue source of business development services is inadvertently increased because of a domino effect focusing on products. In essence, it went something like this: book outline, blog, final book, coursework, AI tool. One last note for the proverbial iron triangle. We only have limited resources. When you decide to invest in your business, you can do one of 2 options. You can invest time and energy, or you can invest capital to access another person's time and energy. From my experience, I have not seen anything other than the 2 options for investing in your innovative tool or business. So, to wrap up our journey, we will go through a quick summary. We talked about innovation. The discussion spoke about innovation as putting your different ideas into reality. We talked about strategy. Strategy was defined as facilitating optimal and feasible movements. We talked about transdisciplinary thinking. We described transdisciplinary thinking as using theories synergistically. So, remember, our goal for today was to highlight how our innovations can solve known health problems. But just because we know the importance of identifying problems does not mean we know how to do it. I am here to share 3 resources that I believe will help you. Healthy People 2020 is a great tool to use to see the government's goals for improving the health of the nation. I think it would be a great idea to look at their initiatives because their initiatives signify a problem within the community. Now, just because you are future researchers does not mean you need to be adverse to working with county health officials. If you discovered a problem and identified the impact of not solving it, then you may want to talk to these individuals. For every state, there is a grant called a block grant, which is money for states to use. County health officials will have access to these funds and can serve as a type of funder for your ideas. So, the Scholar Strategy Network is a great platform to meet other like-minded individuals. These are all academics with a passion to make change in their community. After looking up their chapters, I did find one in Florida. I would recommend joining because you'll get access to a lot of people that know a lot of problems which need to be solved. With that, I would like to leave you with some words of experience. Dare to be different, but not so different that you have to explain yourself. In other words, the difference between a horse and a unicorn is a horn on the forehead. It's different enough to be called a legendary creature, but not so different that people don't have a name for it. At the bottom of the screen, you can see the URL to my LinkedIn. Feel free to stop by, send an invite, and let me know about any questions you might have. For those who like the transcript, like reading along, you can also find the URL link in the PDF document. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to meeting ya.